Good afternoon, working lunch gang. How are we all doing? It is Wednesday. I am your host, James Whitelock, for today. That's it. You can see me. The best beard in recruitment marketing is back. And and today I am joined by John Russell, who I'll bring up on screen in a little minute. But as with every working lunch, I would like to hear what everybody is having for lunch. In my case, it is my usual salad, which I always have before a working lunch, not to fill myself up too much. I'm going to bring on John up on screen, and he's going to tell us a bit about what he had for lunch.
Thanks, James. I had a ham and tomato baguette, half a ham and tomato baguette.
Just half.
Just a half.
Are you saving the other half for later? Is that...
No, the kids have got that. They're having gazpacho, which is very nice.
Oh, that's so you're actually joining us from France today. Is that correct?
I am in a little village called Igalière, which is very close to Saint-Remy or Avignon in Provence. So working from home suiting me quite well.
That sounds pretty good. That sounds pretty good. Okay, so everybody in the chat, let us know what you're having for lunch. And as we go through the webinar for the next kind of 45 minutes, if anyone's got any questions, then stick it in the ask a question or stick it up in the chat, and we will try and answer them. Thanks, John. He says mega beard to JW. This is the lockdown look. This is what we're going for. So what did everybody else have for lunch today? So we've got Stephen has nothing as usual. Dust for Stephen. I know if Debbie was here, it would probably be apples. I'm not sure if she's joined us yet. I know if my sometimes co-host Shafiq was on board, he always makes something really great. He's always kind of putting us all to shame. He's always been kind of working the day before on some kind of amazing curry, basically. Simon Lewis is in the house with us today. He's a minted lamb from last night's barbecue. Wow, I mean,
nice to see, Simon.
That's pretty good. That beats my salad and your half a baguette, basically, doesn't it? Hey, there's my. I think here comes Shafiq. I can see he's come on board. Shafiq, if you're just joining us, we'd love to know what you had for lunch, because I'm sure it was something. It was some kind of curry. I'm sure of it. So if people are just joining us, John, maybe it's worth kind of just going to give us a little bit of background about your, where you come from, what your kind of experience is, what your relationship is to recruitment.
Sure. So been in recruitment since '99, and joined Morgan McKinley back in the day. Grew them from about 45 consultants to about 220 before they got sold to Imprint. Then started a marketing agency, a digital marketing agency in events. So selling to the likes of Vodafone, Betfair, Ford were our first three clients, doing experiential marketing, as we called it back then, and photo marketing, which was basically grabbing people's email addresses and sending them a photo from a phone, which was incredibly forward thinking back then.
It's the future.
It was the future. But anyway, it sold my stake in that for after a couple of years, because there was a difference in opinion in where the business should go, and then jumped back into recruitment and hopped around at various brands, including Randstad, Martin Ward Anderson, James Gray Associates, payroll recruiter in St Albans, some big fish and small fish. So, but always basically reworking the technology stack within those businesses to drive what marketing was being asked to do.
Now we're going to come on to technology stacks, because there might be some people in the chat and also to our Facebook kind of followers who aren't aware what that term is, because that's something that's going to kind of come up over the last kind of couple of years, really.
Okay.
So we're going to chat around that. So really, the kind of topic for today is to talk around harnessing your technology in your recruitment process. And for us, we are going to kind of concentrate a little bit on how that. Someone's already asked, what's a technology stack? So harnessing your technology, and more towards how that kind of operates on your website and how that interacts with all of your other kind of your other technology stack, as it were. So this is kind of, I kind of want to get you on board to talk about that, because it's off the back of a last week's working lunch with Stephen and Debbie, when they were talking about what makes a really good recruitment website. And that was very much from the...
I saw that show. Great work, guys.
And that was very much from the kind of candidate perspective. So I wanted to have a kind of see what we could do from the other side, basically. So we're recruiters, we're building our website. What are the kind of things that we need to kind of take into account? And what is the technology that we should be kind of looking at? And what's the kind of processes we go through? So let's answer this first question before we go any further. What is a technology stack?
So it's basically any piece of technology that you can use within the business to accelerate your workflow or your recruitment process. So like you used to post a job on every individual website, people now use Broadbean or Idaboo or Logic Melon or one of those guys. So that a piece of technology doing one small bit within it. And then if you imagine within all of the recruitment journey, so you've got client generation, lead generation, candidate generation, how do you engage? How do you send emails? How do you send text messages? Do you use voice? Any piece of automation that you can harness to drive the speed of your business and ROI, I would include in your technology stack. So the most obvious one that everybody will be using is their ATS or applicant tracking system. So like your Bullhorn or your Vincherry or your Job Adder or Profile, Microdeck, whatever. So that's your applicant tracking system, and your CRM or your customer relationship management, where you're managing all your client relationships. And the other piece of technology that everybody's got usually is a website.
Yes.
And it's how do those two connect, and how do you make them work smart and together seamlessly, rather than sort of doing a lot of heavy lifting. So if you have any,
we'll come to the process, because I think that's the kind of one of the kind of bits that doesn't really kind of get talked about, is the process you go around about deciding on which technology. For me, when I think about technology stack, I think of it quite visually. It literally is you're the different kind of bits of technology you've got stacked on top of one each other, and how they all interact. Basically, one talks to another, and talks to another, and talks to another one, and how they and now.
And it's that handover between the two.
It doesn't really work like that. It tends to be kind of all in different, but it is basically, if someone asks you what your technology stack is, you would list off the technologies that you're using. Basically, that is kind of the most kind of, I think, the simplest way of going about it. So let's get on to the kind of first point that we were going to discuss, was the decision-making process around the technology you're going to use, and the kind of things you need to take into consideration. Again, especially when it's regarding your website, because my feeling is when people are a bit kind of go around about to build a website, kind of go about it the wrong way slightly. It's usually done from a visual point of view first. So you make the pretty pictures from the the coloring in department, and then you kind of worry about how it's all going to kind of fit together after that. Whereas I think you should actually do it the other way around. So I think that you should do the decision-making process on the tech you're going to use, and then kind of come to that art. So, from your experience, what are the processes you need to think, and what are the kind of things you need to kind of consider when you're going to go about that?
It's all about the ROI and where you've got the lowest hanging fruit and the quickest buck, So it's what is going to have a long-lasting impact on your business and is going to be positive. What changes to your recruitment process and the flow of a candidate or a client within your business? Where is the heavy luggage at the moment within that handover? So what's sticky, what's manual, what's not working fast or as well as it should? And then look at that problem, but then go through the whole process and look at the perfect onboarding journey for a candidate, then look at the perfect onboarding journey or buyer's journey for a client, and then see how you're delivering against that, and then where the heavy luggage is, or the slow bit, or the inaccuracies, or the bits that are falling down and costing you time and money, and then looking for technology solutions that address one or several pieces of that problem within your business priority. And as you grow, I mean, the process we adopt is we say, right, you know, what's the biggest problem in your business at the moment? You know, site looks great, you know, there's nothing really on with it. I'm sure it's converting okay and the traffic's okay, but what's wrong with it? Oh, it's not connected to my systems, or I'm not texting, you know, I've not got a chat bot, you know, or something. You know, they want something else, and they might not know how to fit it in to their process, but they know that other people are doing it, so they've seen it can work, and they're wondering, how should we go about doing that? And that's really, you know, Jack Copeland, who started Staffing Future. I mean, he was, I think, number 5 in at Broadbean, and you had Dan Maguire on on Tuesday. You know, Kelly Robinson's a non-exec of Staffing Future. I mean, his problem, because he's always looked at the problem with technology and how technology can solve real business problems within recruitment companies. He's got that expertise and experience to say, right, we'll actually do that, don't need that. Let's look at a roadmap over the next 12 months and decide where you want to be, and then try and work up, you know, various stages along that route so that you get to where you want to be and the business doesn't fall over in the meantime. Because if you adopt...
I like the idea of the fact that what you're trying to do, the decision you're making kind of process, when you think is what does this solve? You know, where are my pain points, and how is this going to be solved? And then how do we then how does that fit into, whether that be our back end, our front end, the website, and how does that kind of play out basically, and how does that resolve this issue that we're trying to kind of fix? Because it could only be, in the end, maybe just one little issue with the website, not necessarily the whole website that needs kind of redeveloping.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Again, if anyone's just joining us, I'm talking to John Russell from Staffing Future about recruitment, the recruitment process, and how technology can help you harness it. If anybody's got any questions, stick it in the chat or in the question box, and we will try to answer as many as we can before the end of the webinar. So the kind of recruitment, so the process you kind of go through when you're deciding, I think is one of those kind of really important parts that kind of gets left behind, and you need someone really to help you kind of guide you through that process, because most businesses don't have experience on, they're not technologists, they're not futurists, whatever else they want to be called. So they become really, really confusing. So I think that's one of the kind of the things that a really good technology business, whether that is Staffing Future, whether that's one of the other previous kind of companies you mentioned, they should be able to kind of talk you through that process. And I've been in businesses before where you've just been handed basically a file and to go, right, implement that somewhere, put that in, basically.
Make that happen.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, what? I have no idea. That doesn't I don't know what it meant. I don't even know what it's meant to do. So that would be kind of, I think that's kind of really important, is to kind of be able to walk people through that kind of confidently and help them, make them feel confident about it as well.
And because what we do, the website's like the external hub of your business, like your applicant tracking system's the internal hub of your business, and your CRM for your client side. So what we try and do is say, look, make sure you've got the right framework for the business and where the money is, and focus on where that is, and then we'll take project lead on that for you. So they're not stressing about, oh shit, how do I connect things? How do I make things work? We'll do that for you, and take that project management lead on that integration. So, for example, we've got a client who hadn't signed for a new website, was wondering which applicant tracking system to use. We introduced them to one that they'd not heard of or considered previously. They were going with, the existing one or another one.
Mm-hmm.
And, it was because the way we taught them through that process, and we've got a whole spreadsheet of how to assess an applicant tracking system, what's good, what's bad. And it just sort of takes that subjectivity and clarifies the decision-making process. So you've got a scorecard, and it's really simple. And at the end of the day, binary, which is what technology excels at. It's making everything really simple for the users, and it's not trying to replace things, but it's trying to accelerate the process and help people in that process, not try and make them, save money.
We've had a question from my mate Shafiq, who's asked, "What do we use WordPress? What do you guys think of it as a CMS?" Well, I think I can predict your answer, John. But yeah, you got to kind of, what is your kind of feeling about WordPress as a content management system?
I mean, WordPress powers 20% of the world's websites, right? And any sort of developer of technology usually builds a WordPress integration for a reason, because they've got such a great distribution opportunity there. We use WordPress because it's really flexible, it's really secure, really stable. We use Amazon Web Services for hosting, so that's really scalable, and you can blow up thousands of pages and in an instant and not run out of bandwidth. So we use WordPress because it's so flexible, and we know what we're doing. I know WordPress can get a bad rap, but that's usually from some developer who's not put the HTTPS on the website, or they've left the back door open or something. But I mean, it's a fantastically capable and very productive platform, and we love it.
Yeah, I know. I'm a convert. I used to think it was kind of, because it was free. It was, I didn't value it, and I think that's where it's kind of like, it's kind of brand issues came in, because it was kind of it was cheap and it was free, and it did everything you wanted to do. I didn't value it, which is the most ridiculous thing in the world, because actually, as you said, it is a very, our website is built on it, and when we still built websites, we built them on WordPress as well, because you're right, it is a very capable platform, and Shafiq, basically, you're fine with a WordPress site. You don't need to update it. Stephen O'Donnell has said it's 45%. Apparently, the world's websites are on there, so even better.
Thank you.
By the end of this, maybe 46. So getting back to kind of what we were talking about. So we discussed the kind of decision making process, but let's try and kind of get a little bit granular in some of the things that you should be kind of focusing on. One of those is lead generation, and we kind of come at that from a client perspective and a candidate perspective. But let's do kind of client lead gen first, and how you can tackle that.
Sure. I mean, the key is search engine optimization, or SEO research, and making sure that you're not chasing vanity traffic. So you might have 10,000 visitors or 100,000 visitors, and you think that's great, but actually, if they're all bouncing and spending less than 30 seconds on the site, then the traffic's got no value. So you really need to know which traffic you're targeting, and that means SEO research, which I've done some for a number of the Working Lunch hosts, but it's more about finding where that traffic is, how competitive that search term is, what the value of a click would be if you were advertising and paying for that traffic. And then when you've got that knowledge, you can then start to build your website to harvest that traffic and convert that traffic into a lead. And for that, you need to produce content. Again, all in line with your specific search term and the traffic that you're trying to target.
So I just want to kind of go back to one of the terms. So again, I want to make sure that we're kind of, because we can get quite marketing and talk about things that we know what it's about. So when you mentioned bounce rate, right? Now, maybe everybody knows what the bounce rate is, but some people don't. what is a bounce rate?
So it's basically somebody coming to the website and skipping off because it's boring or dull or not what they were looking for. So they bounce off the site. So it'll still register as a visitor,
yeah,
but it won't really count for your business.
And that's calculated as a percentage. And what's a good percentage and what's a bad percentage when it comes to things like
that? I think if you're under 50 or under 50%, that's really good.
Yeah.
If you're under 60, that's okay. Sort of anything over 70,
yeah,
you really want to be asking questions.
Yeah. My feeling always was that if you're at the extremes of the bounce rate, it tends to mean there's something wrong with a website. That's what I was, because it's kind of not registering.
You've either not got enough traffic,
yeah,
and there's only you and your mates who are going there and sticking around for ages, or there's loads of people going and it's not relevant.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. So I think if you can hover between 30 and 50%, wow, that would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Anything below 60 is good, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's my kind of experience. So we got a question from Debbie. How do you feel about hybrid ATS CRM products like Big Biller? Do you know? I've known the name, but I don't know the actual product itself, if I'll be honest. So maybe is that something you've come across?
I don't know either. I haven't heard of Big Biller per se. But what my general take on that sort of technology is that if you try and do a lot of things okay, then you're not doing some of the things really well.
Mm-hmm.
And although it might look cheaper on paper, it might actually cost you in the long run. But it depends what the alternative is and what that solution might be. Yeah. So, for example, a reverse example of that might be Tracker RMS, for instance. Now, some people don't like the look of the interface,
yeah,
but actually the technology is fantastic. It's got job posting built in, text messaging, marketing, automation, and emailing. So you don't need a lot of, your MailChimp, your Texters, your Sense or Hairfish, or all those other pieces of technology. But that's horses for courses, and where you've got the biggest traffic on that piece of technology, and I think that's only the individual business owner can make that decision, because and how much they're willing to invest in a seat recruiting, whether it's 80 quid a month or whether it's 200 quid a month over various pieces of technology or more. And we've got clients who have several different bits of technology, but actually their recruiters are incredibly productive. So if you look at their technology stack, their technology grouping of different bits of kit, you might think, wow, they are spending 4 times what another recruitment company is doing, but they're billing $200,000 a month, or per head, not 10 or 15 or 20 that people might be hoping to achieve in this market.
I think there's also a slightly kind of bigger question to ask. Is it, and you mentioned this at the start, is what do you really want? What do you need from that system? What is it you're asking it to do? And the line has got very blurred between what is an ATS and a CRM, and has been for a while, I think. There are obviously there are scales. There are definitely businesses at either end, but there is now a kind of this blurring of what is an ATS and what is a CRM. And I think you're right. You just have to come down to the fact, what do you want it to do? Find a product that does what you want it to do, or gets 80% close to what you want to do, and then settle on that.
Exactly, and then do one that the guys like. There's nothing harder than trying to push an ATS onto a team that doesn't like it and doesn't want to use it and doesn't want to be there, because then you'll just have staff churn, and it'll be harder to recruit and all the rest of it.
Don't try and build it yourself, because that always ends in disaster. I've seen that happen on numerous occasions.
Yeah, and it's also very tricky usually to integrate with.
Yeah.
So
you leave the whole business in a silo. Basically, that's what happens with that kind of thing.
Exactly. It's great for the IT manager, but
exactly. So that was kind of so lead gen for clients. That's very kind of SEO focused, and we're going to talk a little bit more about SEO in a bit. What about kind of lead gen when it comes to kind of candidate? What's candidate focused?
Well, I mean, just on the client generation as well. The other critical piece is, once you've got the traffic there, is how are you converting it? So what technology is doing that? Because if you've got a client visiting your website and they're, ooh, interesting, how do you capture that progressively so that it's quick and easy, and there is some level of engagement, but then you might use progressive profiling. So you just need a first name and an email, first data capture point. And then when you follow up with hey, thanks for registering, tell us your phone number, tell us what sector you're in, what type of business, and you can build up profiles on the clients, and then hand them over to the consultant to call at a point in which they're going to be productive and their call's not going to be wasted. Hello, you visited our website. So what?
So, how successful is that? Because the traditional kind of thought is that clients don't really do much when they come to your website, and because they're basically just given a give us your job form is served to them, or there's a couple of pages on the specialism of your business and what you do, and the thought is that they don't really do much and they don't really want to interact with you on the website. If they're going to give you a job, it's probably come from something more proactive, like a phone call elsewhere. So what's your kind of feeling on that now, where we are at this kind of day?
I mean, I think you're asking quite a lot of a client to just trust you from visiting your website. You've got to be some sort of exchange of value, and it's the old inbound marketing piece, which are a huge proponent of. But but I mean, it's you've got to have something to get your teeth into and be discovered for the right traffic and the right search. So unless you're offering something, it might be a lead magnet or a book or a download that you exchange and then drop them into a communication sequence with a Hairfish, a Sense, Force 24, some piece of technology, or a HubSpot. Sorry. But and then you drip feed them into those campaigns, and then you can task different consultants to do different points within that onboarding process. But you're right at the top of this call, you said, how do we go about deciding what it is? It's where is define your buyer's process and your buyer's journey, define your personas and do all of that piece, so you know who you're talking to, what they want, and then you can then produce content, video, infographics, articles, what have you, to then engage with them and help them make that decision better, and then they'll trust you, and you ultimately trying to build trust so that you can supply them your services for the business, and you've got to demonstrate that expertise within that process, and you can use technology to enable you to do that, rather than just relying on a consultant to send an email or make a phone call and he's out. Does he log it? There's a whole number of things that need to happen for that to actually occur.
I know Stephen and Debbie talked a little bit about kind of video usage on the website. So if everybody wants to kind of go back and look at, I can't remember which day it was last week, but there's a little bit on there about kind of video usage on the website. So
just on that, I'd say use video where appropriate and to demonstrate your expertise. And if you use a bit of technology like Vimeo, or Vimeo Professional, or something you can turn into a lead capture.
Mm-hmm.
So you can upload your video, have the transcript, so it's nice and SEO friendly, and then generate leads by having little annotation links drop in and say, "Do you want to know more?" You know, convert, get a conversion.
Okay, so that's clients. What about candidates when it comes to lead generation?
So job title is key, as in the job title that you choose, and there are loads of variations within those job titles. And then having that and having the page structured accordingly to harvest that traffic. We do job landing pages, so that you've got, and that's already updated all the time. The moment you push a fresh job to it, and the consultant does nothing more than just publish to the website, and we pull all that in for you. That's then automatically submitted to Google instantly. So that as a client, when you're posting a job, your job's been distributed to 15, 16 job aggregators, as well as being discoverable on Google and being indexed on your site, and you're the original publisher, so your site gets the most SEO dues. That it's that sort of piece that the technology within the advertising piece can really help your candidate flow and quality candidate flow, and writing, same old pain that everyone has is getting people to write a proper job advert that sells the company, and more than just lifting the job spec and sticking it on the website because they've got 2 minutes at the end of the day. It really needs to be thought through and considered, and then consistent with the rest of the content that you're trying to produce for your clients and your candidates.
I find it amazing that after all this time that we're still discussing job descriptions and how to write job descriptions.
It's really hard to write. It's easy to write, but it's really hard to write really decent copy. And
it seems that you can template this thing quite easily these days as well. You can have kind of templates. You can just kind of write, this is that kind of job, and this is the template for that, and you just update it a little so it's not the same as every other single job on the website, but you can make it at least look consistent.
Yeah, no, exactly. And
it's very interesting when you do visit a website, and I'm sure again Stephen will probably kind of will kind of chip in on this, but you go to a website and you can almost tell which which consultants have written which job adverts, because they're all written in a slightly different style. There'll be one with just a one sentence, and then there'll be one that's kind of full of bullet points and that's lovely kind of, and that it's basically there's two different, or there's several different the consultants who are writing these, and you can almost tell by their style which ones are doing it or which ones can't be bothered. Yeah, Stephen has mentioned it's kind of very haphazard, which is it is true. But it shouldn't be like that anymore. And you don't have to expect a consultant to be a copywriter. You just have to expect them to be able to write.
No, and we use keyword search on job titles. So if you've got different job titles that might focus on slightly different things, but you've got consistent terminology used within those job adverts, then we publish the same job to maybe 5, 10, 20 different pages on the website. So, and then submit those all automatically, so that and push them up to the job aggregators. So, as well as pushing about 10% of our revenue, we spend on performance media within the job aggregators. So things like Talent, Nuevo, Job is Job, Indeed, AdSooner, all of that. So, we typically see a significant uplift with client website job applications, and that then becomes the primary source of your candidates flow, rather than the job boards that you're fishing in everybody else's pool as well. So
that kind of leads on to SEO, which you kind of touched on a couple of times. And SEO is always, for me, it's kind of one of those. It's a tricky one to kind of to combat, because it's such a kind of an expansive kind of term now, really, for lots of different things that you can do within search engine optimization. I don't think it's ever really now the dark art that it used to be, but there's definitely an art to it, and to get it right does take some work. And you need someone who has got an idea of how to do it, because it's not about just ramming a piece of content full of keywords and keyword density anymore. There's a bit more to it than that, right?
Yeah, exactly, and that goes back to the construction of the website. And if your site's got loads of technology or loads of flash, or different players or stuff, and then that takes a long time to load, because 60% of traffic's on mobile now, and they're just bouncing off. It doesn't do anything any good for anybody. Whereas if you think about the SEO and the structure and the technology within the page, and it's designed to convert and is very focused on what it's trying to achieve, then actually, although you might have less traffic, it's more relevant traffic. And then that is a better business result and a better ROI for your business. I mean, we're so keen on tracking the ROIs that we set up all the conversion tracking for clients, so that we know how it's performing.
So let's take conversion tracking. So
right.
Talk us through that. Yeah.
Sorry.
Conversion, and then how you track that? What is a conversion? Yeah, exactly. And how do you track that said conversion?
Gone onto a website and you're thinking, oh, I like that, I'm going to submit my details. That's a conversion. Or you could set different conversion goals, but typically that's a good one. And you can track that within Google Analytics, or there are other technology and tracking tools that you can use on the website that track your users, as well as do retargeting and remarketing with Google AdWords, for instance, or different Facebook pixels, so that if you visited a dog food website, for instance, and you keep seeing adverts of dog food on the website, that site is running cookies on you for 30 or 60 days. But it's because you've given the details, or you've accepted the cookies on when you click visit, then that's how it knows it. And then from that, because you can work out how valuable that traffic is, you can then put assign a value to your traffic, and then work out your ROI on your website. So you can your ROI, your website shouldn't be costing you anything. It should be adding things into the mix, not costing money.
Yeah. Okay, so that's kind of one part of SEO. What about the kind of other stuff that we kind of, like I mentioned, the old school thoughts around keyword density and link building and those kind of things? Does that still play? Is that still relevant? Is that still a part of what you
absolutely, but you can't just spam and buy the links. That's not white hat, as it's called.
Yeah.
But if you've got Louise's Recruiter magazine and you've got a good inbound link from her, that's a well thought of, well respected website within the community. So actually, that's a good link to have. But if you've got one on, I don't know, dogfood.com, then it's got no real value, and actually nobody's going to go there. So the visitors from there are going to be poor anyway and bounce. So if you can try and build inbound links, they definitely have a lot of value to the site and can help your ranking or your domain authority, and how well your site is positioned within Google. But it's really about the user experience that Google is trying to rank for, and then tailoring that user experience for the users, so that if you're recruiting other accountants, then if you've got lots of accountants who are converting on your website, then the search engines are more likely to display your website to other accountants. So it has a halo effect, because they're trying to improve their customer experience all the time.
Yeah.
So they'll be using gazillions of algorithms to work out who to show your site to. And that's why SEO will remain a really important part of what you do. And your site needs to be quick to load, easy to operate and convert, well designed. But yeah, starting back, the design's almost, although that's the bit that you see and is the most important, it's actually one of the last bits that you need to think about, really.
That's good that you brought that up, because we're coming up to the kind of 40-minute mark and we've got about kind of 5 minutes left. So let's talk around design and kind of design iterations and how you go through that process, and take people through what they should be considering when they're kind of thinking about the design.
So we use a wireframing tool, which is basically, a box diagram that you can just quickly juggle things around, and you say, right, if you click on home, where do you go next? And then we can iterate the main navigation menu from that. Then we can start to work up designs. But every site we do, we always optimize and iterate, as in, and we're looking for consistent 1-2% gains month on month, which might not sound a lot, but rather than trying to hold up and spend 6 to 12 months going, right, what bit of technology do we use, or what, should we make the button bigger, or what have you? We just try and do that process consistently, so that you're making those small, consistent gains, and over time, that has a much bigger impact on your business than trying to hold out for the Holy Grail sort of thing.
So there's kind of little marginal gains, as we.
Yeah, and clients need to be brave and just try stuff. Testing. A/B test is critical, and if you're not doing it, then get started.
Okay. So we'll say A/B testing. Take us through A/B testing.
So you got version A is blue, version B is red. Which one works best? Blue or red? Push some traffic to the both of them, A or B test, and then the data will tell you which one works best with your audience. And then do the same thing. Is it red, or is it a different shade of red, or is it is it a bigger button, different text? You can just constantly iterate and test and measure.
But so you must kind of, when you're building a new site, there must be you go through that process and you launch with a design, but your philosophy is then continually updating that design, tweaking that design, testing that design. Because again, one of the other things you see with a lot of websites is they just look static for the 3 to 4, 5 years, however old that website then becomes, is almost a driver to get a new website is, our website looks old.
Yeah, and actually it might look great, and people might not need, and actually it's the people internally in the business who are tired of it.
Yeah,
and it might just need a bit of technology, or a reskin, or a refresh, or an upgrade to the platform that they're on, or something to make it convert better, or different call to actions. The design core might be good, and it might be just but it's important to test that, because otherwise you don't know it. So yeah. But invariably, we're in the situation where it's a bit tired, or it just doesn't work, it's not connected. So I know I need to do something. Help. That's why I say, at the start of this, it's about a 12-month journey, and trying to say, where do you want to be, and then what are the steps and roadblocks that we can try and help you get there, and which technologies can we use and deploy within your process, so that you're accelerating your business, not just changing the website.
Yeah. So that's interesting, because I like that idea, because that's I suppose one that kind of that always keeps the website fresh from an internal point of view, and that is always kind of from an external point of view, there's something a little different every time someone might well visit it. So there's something kind of you kind of, and is that something that helps for SEO as well? Just kind of those kind of constant.
Yeah, absolutely, because your website will be converting better. People will be sticking around on the pages for longer. They'll be visiting more pages more often. So it's all those good healthy website signals that you're trying to improve on consistently. And over time, that's why software as a service for us is the way to go, because you've got somebody in your back corner who's removing all the errors, all the toxic links and stuff like that for you. So you don't need to worry about that. But you've still got that forward-facing, business-focused approach for the website to iterate and test and measure and just concentrate on growing your business.
Well, we've come to we've kind of 45 minutes to just run through, mate.
Is that it?
Yeah, we're already in. Yeah, so that was perfectly timed. John, thank you very much for joining us today on the Working Lunch. For anyone who's watching, I suggest also maybe go back and watch Stephen and Debbie's kind of broadcast from last week, which they talk about a little bit about design and website design and what makes a good website. That the nice kind of accompanying webinar to what we've talked about today. So what have you got for the rest of the week? Tomorrow, I believe you've got Debbie as your host, and then we've got Stephen on Friday with his weekly roundup. So thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you again, John. Enjoy the rest of your baguette when you get around.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all soon.
That's cool. Thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks, James. Bye-bye.